Darkness completely swallows the Golden Gate Bridge, not from night, but a 30-meter wall of black water standing vertically. The sound is not familiar traffic horns, but the deafening roar of billions of tons of water tearing through the air. It sounds like the scream of a giant beast imprisoned for centuries, now finally released from its ancient chains. At the first moment of impact, the massive steel cables of the bridge snap apart like fragile threads. Thousands of commuting cars are violently hurled into the air, blending helplessly into the white sea foam. The vibrant red structure buckles and shatters completely, plunging into the brutal, swirling, watery abyss below. The savage current rushes straight into the bay, swallowing the Alcatraz prison whole in a mere blink. The scene shifts rapidly to Silicon Valley, the technology heart of the world facing immediate death. Magnificent glass headquarters of trillion-dollar corporations crumble instantly under the crushing hydraulic pressure. Water rises ceaselessly, turning highways into deadly rivers churning with wrecked cars and debris. No distress signals remain. Transmission towers collapse and sink into the vast, endless sea of water. Northern California is literally being erased from the continental map in less than 60 minutes. This is not a scenario from a Hollywood movie full of special effects that you have seen before. This is the darkest scientific script that Mother Nature has prepared for the American West Coast. The awakening of the Cascadia Subduction Zone, the monster sleeping quietly in the deep ocean floor. An engineer stares blankly through the office window, face pale before the approaching wall of water. A woman holds her child tightly on a rooftop, surrounded by an endless, vast sea of water. Famous landmarks and vibrant cities are now just a memory buried under layers of thick mud. The only question remaining right now is not if, but when will it actually happen? Welcome to the ocean's judgment day, Cascadia and the total collapse of California. San Francisco wakes up on a crystal-clear autumn morning, with mist drifting past the peaceful Salesforce Tower. In Silicon Valley, tech engineers start their new day with hot coffee and endless lines of code. The vast vineyards of Napa Valley stretch out under golden sunlight, awaiting the first tourist groups of the day. But 300 miles offshore, beneath the black ocean floor, a geological monster is beginning to stir. Two massive tectonic plates have ground together for 3 centuries, building up unimaginable pressure. The sky suddenly falls strangely silent as thousands of seagulls simultaneously fly frantically towards the mainland in panic. On the streets, domestic dogs begin barking frantically and snapping their leashes to find a safe hiding place. The clock strikes exactly 8 in the morning, and ripples appear in the coffee cup on the desk. A sudden violent shock throws pedestrians onto the sidewalk, causing all activity to halt immediately. The ground shakes violently, and skyscrapers sway back and forth like giant pendulum clocks. Tempered glass sheets from high floors shatter, falling onto the streets below like a deadly meteor shower. The Golden Gate Bridge vibrates intensely. Cars slide freely and crash into each other, causing loud explosions. The tremors do not stop after a few seconds, but continue, screams blending with ear-piercing alarm sirens. The entire Northern California power grid overloads and shuts down, leaving the city in darkness and thick smoke. At Ocean Beach, the ocean suddenly recedes at breakneck speed, leaving behind a soaking wet sandy beach. The seabed reveals dead coral reefs and thousands of fish flopping desperately on the foul-smelling black mud. Curious tourists do not know this is a sign of death. They stand filming instead of running to high ground. On the distant horizon, a white line begins to form, growing larger and swallowing the sky. A lifeguard realizes the impending disaster. His face turns pale as he screams into his walkie-talkie. The artificial silence ends. The roar of the ocean echoes, signaling that the moment of judgment has arrived. The first wall of water hits Crescent City, not a wave, but a liquid mountain of pitch-black darkness. In a single second, the entire coastal town is pulverized into flat ruins under millions of tons of water. Ancient 1,000-year-old redwood trees are ripped from their roots, tossed like broken matchsticks in the floodwaters. The savage current does not recede, but continues piling up, pushing destruction dozens of miles inland. At San Francisco Bay, the narrow strait compresses the water column, forcing it to rise suddenly like a giant snake. The Golden Gate Bridge, America's proud icon, now appears pathetically small before the ocean's furious rage. The wave crashes hard into the South Tower, creating an explosion of white foam higher than the tower peak. The steel and concrete bridge deck is torn apart, twisted like a red silk ribbon before falling into the abyss. Hundreds of cars trapped on the bridge pour down into the swirling water like mindless pebbles. A massive cargo ship is lifted by the wave, crashing violently into the remaining section of the broken bridge. Alcatraz Island disappears completely. The world-famous prison is submerged under 10 meters of murky water. Fisherman's Wharf is wiped out in a blink, with wooden restaurants shattering into millions of splintered pieces. Water floods the Embarcadero Boulevard, turning the romantic coastal road into an aggressive river of death. The famous cable cars are swept away by the current, smashing into roadside buildings with great force. The Transamerica Pyramid shakes violently. Water rises to flood the first floor, shattering all main lobby windows. The ground in the Marina District begins to liquefy, turning into sludge that swallows the foundations of luxury homes. A high-rise apartment building tilts gradually and collapses onto the street, creating a giant dust cloud mixing with water. Pitch black water infiltrates the BART subway system, turning tunnels into deadly high-pressure water conduits. Aerial footage shows the brown floodwaters surging south, advancing relentlessly towards Silicon Valley. Apple's spaceship headquarters is surrounded by a sea of water, curved tempered glass shattering under pressure. Server rooms holding cloud data submerge in water, electric sparks shooting out brightening a corner of the sky. Panic-stricken office workers run to higher floors, looking down at the parking lot, which is now the sea floor. The Googleplex is swamped in mud, with colorful bicycles floating aimlessly and drifting without direction. In Richmond, giant oil tanks are dented and ruptured by waves, spilling black oil everywhere. A random spark triggers an explosion, turning the water surface into a raging, spreading sea of fire. Fire and water destroy together side by side, rolling black smoke rising to cover the weak sunlight. The fragile levee system in the Sacramento River Delta crumbles under the pressure of saltwater surging upstream. Millions of hectares of fertile farmland are submerged, turning the Central Valley into a saltwater inland sea. Panic-stricken livestock swim in the floodwaters, trying desperately to find high ground but without hope. An agricultural tractor is swept away, flipped over, and slowly sinks into the swirling murky water. On Interstate 5, thousands of cars are bumper to bumper in gridlock, water beginning to rise over the wheels. A man abandons his luxury car, climbing onto the roof of a truck to avoid the rising water. Rescue helicopters hover in the sky but cannot land because there is no dry ground left anywhere. A family is climbing onto their roof, the father trying to pull the mother up as water reaches her chest. The Bay Bridge connecting Oakland and San Francisco snaps in half, a section falling into the sea creating a shockwave. San Francisco International Airport SFO turns into a seaport, airplanes floating and crashing into each other. Inside a hospital, doctors and nurses try to move patients to higher floors in the flickering darkness. A great white shark is swept into the city center by the wave, swimming among submerged cars. Giant LED billboards short circuit, explode, and fall into the pitch-black water below. The space is filled with the roar of nature, the sound of twisting metal, and the crying of humans. At a school, the playground is gone. Only the top of the slide is visible sticking up from the water. An ancient lighthouse stands firm for a moment before being toppled by the wave, its light extinguished forever. Coastal Highway 1 collapses into the sea, taking million-dollar vacation homes down with it. A gas station explodes, creating an orange fireball reflecting hauntingly on the black water surface. Fishing boats are thrown by waves onto the city streets, lying awkwardly in the middle of a traffic intersection. Humans become completely helpless, only able to cling to each other and pray in desperation. The sky darkens like ink, and rain begins to pour down torrentially as if to wash away humanity's ruins. Northern California has fallen, buried under mud, water, and the terrifying silence of death. Night falls over Northern California, but there are no electric lights, only the glow of patchy fires. Survivors trapped on rooftops use flashlights to signal for help into the hopeless, empty void. Temperatures drop sharply at night, bone-chilling cold attacking those who are soaking wet and exhausted. Sirens have silenced, replaced by a deadly quiet, occasionally torn apart by gas explosions. Stagnant water begins to smell of gasoline and chemicals, turning the city into a toxic swamp. As the sun rises, weak light illuminates a scene of devastation that no one dares to believe is true. Meters of thick mud cover everything, turning yesterday's busy streets into desolate, swampy wastelands. Wrecked cars pile up into twisted metal hills, completely blocking every possible escape route. The transportation system is totally paralyzed. Highways crumbled into pieces like dry biscuits. Oakland Airport is submerged. Dozens of passenger planes pushed together at the end of the runway. Container ports are destroyed. Thousands of shipping containers floating freely, crashing into remaining bridges. Sewage systems burst. Domestic wastewater overflowing onto the ground, risking a massive disease outbreak. Transformer stations explode, leaving deep craters. Snapped power lines scattered like deadly traps. Silicon Valley is now just a technology graveyard, where the world's greatest minds are helpless. Cloud servers holding global data soak in mud. Billions of terabytes of information lost forever. Tech stocks evaporate. The digital economy collapses, triggering panic in global stock markets. Without clean water, people are forced to drink dirty water from stagnant puddles, accepting the risk of infection. Supermarkets are looted, clean empty shelves leaving only chaos and shattered glass shards. Hungry crowds begin to surround the rare relief trucks that manage to access the area. At field hospitals, medicine runs out. Doctors must perform surgeries without anesthesia. The cries of children separated from parents echo everywhere. Heartbreaking for those who survived. People build makeshift rafts from wooden doors and foam boxes to navigate the flooded streets. A group of young men tries to dig through the rubble of a convenience store to find some dry rations. Messages searching for loved ones are scrawled on standing walls using spray paint and charcoal. The ground in reclaimed areas continues to sink, houses tilting like fallen dominoes. A massive landslide occurs at Twin Peaks, burying a residential area under thousands of tons of earth and rock. Marine animal carcasses and plastic waste float aimlessly, creating a haunting portrait of death. Chemical fires in industrial zones create toxic orange-yellow smoke spreading across the sky. Emergency command centers lose contact. National Guard forces cannot yet access the disaster zone. Helicopters circle the sky but find no safe landing zone amidst the sea of water and mud. In despair, the line between good and evil becomes fragile. Humans ready to do anything to survive. But there are also hands reaching out, strangers sharing their last bit of food with each other. An exhausted firefighter collapses beside the rubble, staring blankly towards the horizon. San Francisco, the jewel of the West Coast, is now just a soulless corpse, cold and dilapidated. The Cascadia disaster didn't just destroy a city, it broke the backbone of the modern economy. What remains is only ash, mud, and a big question. Can we ever rise again? The third day's dawn illuminates a dead land, once the planet's most brilliant technological capital. No more bustling traffic horns or hurried life rhythms. Only wind whistling through bare steel frames. The Cascadia disaster has proven a brutal truth about how fragile human civilization truly is. Survivors begin stepping out of the darkness, faces etched with pain, but eyes less fearful. They share precious sips of clean water, offering supportive hugs instead of 1,000 comforting words. From within the desolate rubble, tattered flags are raised again as a declaration of rebirth. Humans will build again, but this time we must learn humility and respect nature's power. A tiny, vibrant green redwood sprout stretches strongly upward from the deadly black mud layer. The earth does not belong to us. We are merely guests staying on this fragile crust. Be fully prepared, because nature never announces the date and time for its next fury.